Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of Shelf Review, where today we'll be going over a phenomenal series, Chainsaw Man. Now, just to preface, I'll give a brief introduction to how I got into Chainsaw Man. So, really, I just saw edits of it online, and I was like, hey, this looks pretty cool. So, I believe it was late last year, I finally checked out the first season, and I was like, hey, this is really, really good. I can't wait for more to come out. And we'll eventually watch the Reze movie, and I was like, this is really good too, because I believe the Reze movie was what really grasped me into Chainsaw Man, because I saw the first season and I was like, hey, this is pretty okay. I really enjoy this. But then I watched the Reze movie, and with that, you really see the depth that Fujimoto can do with his writing, though still keeping the comedy in it, because that's really when you first start to see Denji's emotional struggle, or at least in my opinion it is, because you deal with Reze, and you deal with Reze betraying him once more, as almost not once more, but betraying him. And this becomes a theme or a motif throughout all of Chainsaw Man, because Denji always falls in love with a woman and then gets betrayed. But yeah, so I watched the Reze movie, and I was like, this is really, really good, so I think I'm going to check out the manga. I didn't ultimately end up doing it, but then one day I scrolled through YouTube, because what I always do is I watch YouTube while I'm playing a game or something, and I saw this new creator, Chewy Dog 1. He's not new, but I newly discovered him. And I watched his video on the Chainsaw Man manga, and I was like, that sounds very wacky, very interesting. It honestly kind of reminded me of JoJo's in a way, just how out there it sounded. I heard that, on another video, I heard that Michigan gets turned into a sword, so I was like, hey, I gotta check this out, because I have no clue what could possibly be causing this to go on. But, yeah, I'll have his link to his video down in the description, because it is a really good video. I'd highly recommend going and checking it out. It'll be far more in depth than my little review here. But yeah, so I was like, you know what? I'll check out the manga. I checked out the manga. I read, I believe it was 6 chapters, and I believe I got to chapter like 53, and I was like, I don't know if I'm really gonna like this or not. Then I proceeded in a span of 5 days to read 150 chapters. So that most certainly acts as a testament to the quality of Chainsaw Man, because though it may have a slow point here and there, it is phenomenal. It is a piece of art. Now, I guess now I'll kind of discuss the basic Chainsaw Man, because I'm not really going to do a story review. I'm really just going to review the series as a whole, since I've just now caught up to it today. So, the power system in Chainsaw Man, how it works is there are these beings called devils. Devils are formed by the fears of humanity. So if you can know, or if you know of a fear, a devil of it exists. So like fear of heights, there's a falling devil. Fear of fire, there's a fire devil. Fear of chainsaws, there's a chainsaw devil. Fear of chickens, there's a chicken devil. So yeah, it's almost anything can be a devil. And how humans integrate themselves with these devils is that there are devil hunters, or I believe it's public safety agents. Well, I don't believe it is public safety agents. And they are the ones who quell devils and send them back to hell. Because when a devil is killed, if not by something that was just later, then it is sent back to hell, where it eventually reincarnate once again in the physical world. So, these public safety agents fight against the devils. However, they do not kill and send back to hell all of the devils. Some of them they make contracts with. Like, for example, they make a contract with the future devil, Aki does, in the actual just base series, not within the manga. But yeah, so we see that, and the contracts can it gives normal humans the powers of a devil. Now, there's another way of getting the powers of the devil, and that is becoming a fiend, and that is where your heart is replaced by the heart of a demon, yet you still have a devil, and you still have your physical body. So Denji, for example, he's a chainsaw fiend, because he has Pochita's heart in him. And now, so I guess next I'll kind of go over the high points of the story. So now that I have that laid out, we see a bunch of antics get up, and also we just see a lot. My main thing about the story that I really enjoyed was the emotional depth of it, and the out of nowhere turns. So I guess one of the biggest turns that I first did not expect was Aki getting turned into the Gun Devil. And I was just really surprised, because this happens not too far off after the Reze movie. And we see Aki get turned into the Gun Devil, and I was not expecting that at all. I wasn't expecting Aki to, I guess, be taken over like that. I wasn't expecting Aki. I was just kind of expecting Aki to live out his days a little bit, his 2 years that he had left at the end of the first season, I believe. But no, he gets turned into the Gun Devil, and Denji has to kill him. That is a very emotional scene, and there's a panel from it where Denji's just kind of like lingering with his chainsaw in Aki, and it's really heartbreaking. But after this part, the end portion of part one is an emotional roller coaster. Well, it's not a roller coaster; it's a downhill tumble. Like you're rolling downhill the entire time. Because after this, he just killed one of his best friends, his two friends, Power and Aki, and he killed Aki. So Makima, since he achieved his goal, because Denji has a main goal in the entirety of Chainsaw Man, and it is to have intercourse with a woman. That is his goal, his driving factor through most of the story. Now, later on, we see that he has the drive to have a normal life where he can be Chainsaw Man. Because he doesn't have a desire for a normal life where he can't be Chainsaw Man. He still wants to be Chainsaw Man and live a normal life. So, after that, we see Denji go to Makima's house. And Makima is there to give him his wish. But when he gets there, he doesn't tell her he wants to have intercourse with her. He tells her that he wants to be her dog. So she's like, all right, I'll let you be my dog. And she got a bunch of dogs at her house and all that. That's just a cute little thing because they're dogs. But, yeah. And then eventually they hear a knock on the door and Power pulls up. Makima slimes out Power right in front of Denji, who just killed one of his other friends. And this scene was crazy because I was not expecting Power to die. That was one character I was not expecting to die at all. Because you just see this, Power legit just gets obliterated. Like, I believe all that's left is like her head and her feet. And this was diabolical. Like, I was not expecting this. I knew Makima would go to any length, but I didn't think there was really a reason to kill Power. But she does anyway. Because what she's trying to do is she's trying to push Denji over the edge. And so, because she knows, or I believe she presumes, that he can go full Chainsaw Man, or I guess kind of a Pochita full Chainsaw Man rather than a Denji full Chainsaw Man. But yeah. Because I'm still kind of confused on that. I know how it's induced, but I really don't know the nature of the big black Chainsaw Man. But, yeah, and eventually have Red Chainsaw Man as well. But yeah, so, and Denji's not reasonably scarred by this. Well, then, after this, the public safety agents come to learn that Makima is the control devil. And, therefore, they have come to annihilate her, because we see Kishibe is now hunting him, and Chainsaw Man and Denji and Makima are essentially running away. And Denji is still defending Makima because he is enthralled by Makima. Makima was his goal, and Makima is his magnum opus. So he's defending him, defending Makima, and eventually he goes full black Chainsaw Man. This is a phenomenal transformation. This is so cool. But then eventually it ends up turning the tides, and he ends up killing Makima. That surprised me. That really surprised me. Just Makima turning out to be the control devil and getting killed in like 90 chapters in, I was not expecting that. Because I expected Makima to be the final villain. Like, the final person who was the goal. Because she was the goal of part one. The goal of part one was for Denji to have intercourse with Makima. But that's not how it turned out. And it just really surprised me. Because from just the kind of the tone prior, I was like, okay, I believe Denji's probably going to achieve his goal. This is probably going to happen after he killed the Gundam. I was like, yeah, this is absolutely going to happen. Like, it's weird, but I'm like, yeah, Denji, good job, man. You did your goal. But, yeah, she ends up dying and ends up getting killed. And then we go on to part two. Now, part two, I think this is really where Fujimoto shows the skill and his creativity, really. His creativity, most certainly. Because we get introduced to this new character who is called Asamitaka. And Asamitaka, she's a lonely schoolgirl, and she ends up killing the class chicken devil, which was their pet, because it was just kind of making them not fear devils, like fear all devils. And the chicken devil obviously was weak, so he was just a cool little guy. And she trips one day, or is tripped, and while holding the chicken devil, and just squishes him. And then everyone in the class starts to hate her. And then eventually she's going around not the Justice Devil, but the class president, who is the Justice Devil. And going around, eventually she's attacked by the Justice Devil while she was pursuing the Justice Devil and her teacher, because her teacher and the Justice Devil were having extracurricular activities together. And, but yeah, she's almost killed. But then Yoru comes to her, or Yoru, Yoru. And she ends up coming to her, and she's like, if you make a contract with me, then I will save you. And Yoru is the War Devil. Now, the War Devil's power it really has to be one of my favorite in all of Chainsaw Man. I mean, Asa Mitaka, she has a really cool character design too, but specifically when she's in the body of Yoru, because when she does, she has a scar that looks really cool across her face. But yeah, so that's the one thing I like about that character design. But yeah, so we're introduced to Asa Mitaka. She acquires the War Devil, and like I said, the War Devil is one of my favorite powers. The War Devil shows creativity, because there's this one scene where they all get imprisoned in an aquarium by the Famine Devil, because later on in the story we see, I guess, the kind of the four horsemen of war. You all know them: war, famine, plague, and death. Yeah, war, famine, plague, death. So we have the four horsemen. They are coming, and they're coming to inflict not inflict, but follow a prophecy of Nostradamus, and they are here to bring the end and herald the end of humanity, because that's what was prophesied. And the goal of part 2 is really to stop this prophecy from coming to fruition. And yeah, with all that being said, go back to the aquarium example. So they get imprisoned by who is presumed to be the Famine Devil at the time, and in that, Asa, or Yoru, they've been staying here for a while. They're all getting tired. They're all getting hungry, and with that, Asa finally gets an idea. She's like, okay, collect all of the money in here. So Denji and her collecting all the money, and she purchases the aquarium since she has enough money to do so. And how the War Devil's power works is if she has ownership of something, then she can turn it into a weapon. Couch, turn it into a weapon. Bed, turn it into a weapon. Dog, turn it into a weapon. Mom, turn it into a weapon. And the power of the weapon really depends on how guilty she feels for turning that thing into a weapon. So, for example, if she turned her mom into a weapon, or like if someone who really loved their mom turned their mom into a weapon, then it would be a very powerful weapon. Or like if she turned her pencil into a weapon, I believe she does, then it's not going to be too powerful, but if she has a connection to it, it's still going to be kind of powerful. So, with that, Asa acquires the aquarium, and she turns the aquarium into a spear and fights the devil. And that was super cool, because I was like, that was such a creative way of acquiring ownership of the aquarium to then use it as a weapon. Like, I would have never thought of that. That was such a cool design in the story. I loved that. And that's literally, though there's so many hype moments in Chainsaw Man, like when it comes to just a mind blown, that was it. Like, I was, whoa, that was peak fiction right there. But absolute cinema. Oh my gosh, cinema. But yeah, with that, then I guess really the next big thing is to discuss is the next massive plot turn, which is the one around Fami. So we meet this girl called Fami who recently joins their school, and she's believed to be the Famine Devil. And with that, we just slowly see our character build. We see, Asa and Yoru and Denji and Yoshida. Yoshida's the octopus fiend. No, he made a contract with the octopus devil, and he has octopus powers. But yeah, so we see them slowly trying to progress to avoid the prophecy of Nostradamus. We see them fighting things like the falling devil, the fire devil, the aging devil, which is a really cool one, where this was actually quite creative because Asa and Denji got imprisoned in the realm of the aging devil, and Denji has a direct connection to Chainsaw Man Pochita. So if Denji eats something, Chainsaw Man Pochita eats something. And while all the trees in the aging devil's realm are made of humans, so he just starts eating these trees to power up Pochita in the actual world so he can fight the aging devil. And that was just really cool. I really thought that was really interesting as well, because that was super creative. Like, I would have never thought about that. But yet here, uneducated Denji thought of it. Yeah. So with that, we go on to eventually more interactions with Fami. Now, eventually, we see a character come in who is the actual Fami. Suddenly, it's swapped up, and we learn now that Fami was actually the Death Devil and has been residing amongst humans this entire time. She's been plotting her time, and I thought that was really cool, and she goes by the name Lil D now. But yeah, I just thought that was really cool, because I was not expecting her to actually be the Death Devil. I believe the Death Devil was going to be the final, thing that is brought in. I thought it would be a crazy, just, harbinger coming in, destructive event. But no, she's been there the whole time, which is insane, because, she's just been there implementing herself throughout this school, being a normal schoolgirl, but yet still technically considering herself a famine devil, and she's been integrating herself among these people to make them even believe she's their friend. And so then Denji is put in a conflict where he must decide between siding with Yuro and creating a world of infinite war, or siding with the Death Devil and creating a world in which everyone dies. And now, eventually, he just kind of just doesn't go with either side, and with that, he just does whatever he wants, because that's Denji. Denji wants to live his life his own way, the way he wants to. He wants to be free, essentially. But with that, we grow more towards the end of the actual, well, not the end, but where the story is up to now, where we have Denji and Yoro joining sides once more, because Denji has come to the conclusion that he wants to form his own world. He doesn't want to live in Yoro's, he doesn't want to live in Lil D's. He wants to create his own world, and he wants Asamitaka to be in it. Because Asamitaka is a rare instance of a person who genuinely loves Denji back. Now that is a big motif throughout all of Chainsaw Man, is the concept of love and manipulation. Because one thing that Denji goes through consistently that just hurts each time you see it as the reader is Denji is very easily manipulated. And most of the time it is done through feminine charm or just manipulation. Because we see it with Makima. Makima used him to get to her means, achieve her ends, and she still used him up to the very end. And he had to deal with that. And we see Denji also get controlled by the likes of Yuro for a little bit. And then we see him almost get controlled by the Death Devil. And then we see him almost get controlled by Fumi, because Fumi showed him a nude. But it's just really sad, because we see Denji struggle with this. For instance, well, I guess I'll speak about this later, but yeah, just him just continuing to struggle, he begins to realize it, and eventually, as we go throughout the story, he begins to progress. But there's one instance where Denji is also heavily driven by his sexual drive. That's one of his main pushers, because like I said, the goal of part 1 really was to have intercourse with Makima, and that's still his goal in part 2. He just wants to have intercourse with a woman, and he wants to be loved. And there's this scene where, after part 1, Makima dies, since she's the devil, but she is eventually reincarnated as this little girl called Nayuta. Nayuta is the control devil, but she is an innocent child, too. Now, Denji is then tasked with raising Nayuta, and he grows very connected to Nayuta. Nayuta becomes someone very, very important to him. And though, yes, she is the control devil, so she still has those little antics, she does truly love Denji back. She wants Denji to be her brother, or kind of brother figure. She wants him to be there for her. And Denji wants her to have a good life. He's working and doing all that to make sure she has a good life. And eventually, Nayuta is killed. And we see this very sad scene, because she dies. She's killed by a mob because people begin to fear Chainsaw Man. And with this, they just started to hunt anyone who was associated with Chainsaw Man. They learned that Nayuta was essentially the little sister of Chainsaw Man, and they kill her. They decapitate her. And we see Denji going through a lot of struggle, and this one dude offers him right after. He was like, "You want to go to a strip club?" And he was like, "Yeah, I want to go." And then after he gets there, he breaks down, because it is closed. They don't end up going in, but he just breaks down because he's like, "I can't even fight my impulses. What am I doing? One of the most people who was most beloved to me just died, and I'm here wanting to go to the strip club. I'm wanting to see women." And it's just really sad. It's so difficult to see Denji go through this each time and see him realize why he's going through it and still not be able to do anything about it. It's similar to addiction, because Denji does have this addiction to love, to care, to people who wanting to feel needed, wanting to feel wanted. And it's just really sad to see him continually go through that, especially in that scene, because right afterwards they go to a sushi bar and her head was placed right on a platter, and this was done to make him go Black Chainsaw Man, and it ends up working because it's the decapitated head of essentially his little sister. But one thing that I also thought was cool, I guess off to a more jovial tone now, but one thing that was also really cool was how the fear aspect worked, because when a devil is feared more, it's more powerful. It's like death, that's a very, very powerful devil, like I said. And Chicken Devil, weak because it's not as feared. Now, one thing that is done the antagonist in the story, is that the cult of Chainsaw Man forms after a little bit because they see people saving him and they're like, hey, we love this guy. So they make a cult about him. And this cult is propagated by by Yuro and by other Yoru and by other characters to make Denji less feared. And this is done to weaken Denji because the less feared he is, the less powerful he is. And it's just really cool to see because at the point of one part of the story, he is very weak because the cult is so widespread and massive. But eventually, a bunch of people are turned into Chainsaw Devils by I don't even know exactly what it was, but they're turned into Chainsaw Devils, and they begin to fear him again. So he becomes more powerful, and eventually he achieves his black chainsaw form once more. But yeah, that's just a phenomenal story, like I said, because it just grabs your emotion. And I guess back on the prior point that Denji just struggling with that, he really reminds me of Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad. I know that's a weird comparison, but what I always take from Jesse when I watch Breaking Bad is that Jesse never gets a break. He's always struggling. Like, his life is horrible. He can never escape the cycle of, I guess, pain until El Camino, where he escapes to Alaska. So that's really the character I can associate him with the closest, because him and Denji both just continue to struggle and struggle and struggle. And yes, it's due to themselves, but it's also due to the effects of others. For Jesse, it was Walter White. For Denji, it's Yuro, it's Lil D, it's Makima. So yeah, honestly, if I wouldn't say that Chainsaw Man's a Breaking Bad level story, because Breaking Bad's my second favorite television series of all time. But Chainsaw Man has certainly set itself in a place of prestige in my views. It is a phenomenal manga. I would highly recommend it, reading it to anyone. I think Chewy Dog won so much for convincing me to get into the manga. But yeah, and like I said, phenomenal story. And I guess that's really all I have to say about it. I know I'll probably think of something else. I've been doing that recently in the videos where I think of something right as I just click stop button. I'm like, well, crap, I should have said that during the video. But yeah, it just utterly phenomenal story. I loved every second of it. It was so creative. Like, it has to be one of the most creative power systems that I've ever seen in shonen. Like, yes, it wasn't absurdly in depth, but the creativity was insane. Like, One Piece is probably my favorite shonen manga of all time. And I would say, and it has a crazy unique power system because essentially devil fruits can be anything. But how the devil powers are used in Chainsaw Man are honestly even more creative than devil fruits, and that's to say a lot. And okay, well, I'm kind of excluding JoJo's in this because JoJo's is kind of in an own realm of itself because you got stands and all that, and they can be literally anything. But yeah, so it is highly creative. I would highly recommend it to anyone. And I love that it's a darker shonen, so that's what I've always been looking for because I always love more seinen stories like Vinland Saga, Berserk, Vagabond, stuff like that. So yeah, I liked it being darker. So yeah, thank you for watching episode 11 of Shelf Review, and I'll see you later.